For years, there have been rumors that Marvel was planning a Black Panther movie all the way back in the 90s, and finally with 2018's Black Panther coming, we finally heard the truth on whether or not these rumors were right. So today, let's take a look back and piece together all of the information that we have to see what Marvel's 1990s Black Panther movie had to offer. Originally, this video was based around another subject, but since the details of this cancelled Black Panther movie just came out recently, I think it's a good time to take a look at it. So let's go back to 1996. Marvel wasn't doing too hot. In fact, they were currently in the midst of filing for bankruptcy. At the time, DC was doing way better than them in the movie industry. Hits like Tim Burton's Batman movies and Christopher Reeves' Superman franchise hit Marvel hard. The last film that Marvel had made was the 1995 Fantastic Four movie that was so bad it was never released. Marvel Studios is currently in disarray and looking for anything to stay afloat. They go ahead and contact people who may be interested in making any sort of comic book movie. This was one of the only ways they could keep Marvel alive. Marvel wasn't the juggernaut filmmakers that they are today, so it was hard to convince. So cue the entrance of Wesley Snipes. Marvel contacts his manager, who contacts Snipes and says Marvel is interested in him starring and heading a Black Panther film. Wesley Snipes loves this. It just so happens that he's a huge Black Panther fan. In fact, here's what Snipes had to say about Black Panther. I think Black Panther spoke to me because he was noble and he was the antithesis of the stereotypes presented and portrayed about Africans, African history, and the great kingdoms of Africa. It had cultural significance, social significance. It was something that the black community and the white community hadn't seen before. So this was really important to Wesley Snipes, and right off the bat, he was in. Snipes had just been on a hot streak of hits in Hollywood like White Man Can't Jump, New Jack City, and Demolition Man. His name carried weight, and that's exactly what Marvel wanted. And so Snipes started to get to work. He set out to find a screenwriter and a director for Black Panther. Mario Van Peebles was one director he looked for, and although they didn't get far in their talks together, Snipes has later come out and said what they talked about. Snipes went to him with the idea of the film to be basically like 2018's, a portion of Africa being hidden by a force field and it's highly technically advanced, blah blah blah, what we already know. Mario Van Peebles had a different idea. Peebles wanted Black Panther to be about a black man in the 60s who's in the civil rights movement. He's trying to make a difference, and Black Panther then wants his son to join him in the movement, but his son doesn't want to. So then the whole movie is about a son and a father bond over the civil rights movement. Simply put, Wesley Snipes then looks at him and goes, "What? No, do you know who Black Panther is? That's not even, what?" And so after Peebles' bad pitch, Snipes decided to move on from him and then just move on to trying to find a screenwriter, because obviously this director thing was not working out. He wasn't interested in completely changing the story of Black Panther to the 1960s Black Panthers, who were a major part of the civil rights movement. Later, Wesley Snipes got Tom DeFalco, a Marvel Comics writer at the time, to listen to pitches from different screenwriters to find the perfect match for Black Panther. One day, DeFalco went to dinner with screenwriter Terry Hayes and things went amazing. Here, the Hollywood Reporter explained what happened. Terry Hayes gave this incredible pitch from beginning to end for Black Panther, which began with the Battle of Wakanda and baby T'Challa being put on the river in the basket to be saved. Years later, T'Challa is a grown man living somewhere else going about his life. Suddenly he's attacked in an elevator in an elaborately choreographed fight scene, and the story goes from there. Hayes kept on explaining the story and the vision for the film. DeFalco and Snipes loved it. Although they never got far in the story-making process, Snipes began thinking of Black Panther's costume for the film, and well, this is probably the weakest part. When asked on how Black Panther would look, Snipes had this to say. "Actually, I figured it'd be a leotard with maybe some little cat ears on it. Black Panther would have to be in shape and just be straight bodied up." So, Black Panther was almost dressed up like a cheap wrestler. A leotard superhero movie is perfectly weird 90s though. Honestly, it's exactly what I expected it to look like. I mean, this was the era of superhero movies like Steel, the superhero movie starring Shaq. This Black Panther leotard is exactly how weird the genre was at the time. And so they continued with imagining the movie and everything was going great. They finally figured out what beats they wanted Black Panther to hit, but this is where things began to crash down. Snipes could not find a director that he liked that would work well with the project. He had constant worries that the film would not be the best it could be, and he never actually signed on with a director. Eventually, he realized that the Black Panther movie just wouldn't work for him. Just because he was a fan doesn't mean he could do the character justice, and thus was the end for the Black Panther film. But hold on, this wasn't the end for Wesley Snipes and Marvel. He then realized maybe he could do another Marvel character well, and he settled with Blade, and thus created one of Marvel's first big hits. It's arguable that this film was the one that brought Marvel back into the limelight. So maybe in the end, Wesley Snipes did actually save Marvel and create the events that led to the superhero genre taking over the world. Like usual, I've put a poll up in the top right hand corner on whether or not you would have liked to have seen this movie or if you would have thought it would have been good, so go ahead and answer that if you'd like. It's always interesting to see what you guys have to say. Also, for any of you that think Blade was the first live action black superhero, you are sleeping on Handyman. You know, from the 1990s show In Living Color?
Come on out of the store before there's trouble! I ain't leaving! Uh-oh, look like someone's about to join the ranks of the disabled!
Oh my god. Okay, that clip does not age well. Wow, that's not okay. Fine, I'll go back to the script. So of course, like always, I'd like to thank our Patreon donators, Nathan Franks, Roberto Martinez, Samantha Crawford, Jesse White, James Fitzpatrick, Callum Knight, and Jose. Big thanks to those guys for helping out the show, and if you want to help out Cutshort too, you can look into Patreon and see if you'd like to help out like these guys. Also, probably starting next month, I'm gonna fully revamp the Patreon, so hold on for an announcement about that. But again, thank you for watching.
Russian cold to a diamond, eyes forever shining. Your beauty alone inspired a nigga to rhyming. Thinking of the better things in life. Thinking of how I could persuade you to become my wife. Hand in hand as we floating over tropical sands. You my lady, I'm your man, so let's further advance to the next scene. Me sleeping next to you resting. You're the personification of all God's blessings. Coming to me in just one physical being. One physical dream that I want to redeem. Yo, voluptuous, sweet caramel.
There's a new sheriff in town!